The enemy in the mirror, the paradox of success. We spend our lives chasing the feeling of enough. We create goals, craft visualizations, and commit ourselves to the path of success, believing that abundance, whether financial, relational, or spiritual, will finally bring peace. Yet just as the goal comes into focus, a shadow emerges. The promotion is offered, and suddenly you feel compelled to pick a fight with your boss. The perfect relationship starts, and you create distance out of fear. The financial goal is met, and you initiate a rash, destructive spending spree. This is self-sabotage, the moment you break the thing you most desperately wanted. Why would the conscious self work so tirelessly for a goal, only to have the subconscious mind tear it all down? We assume this is a flaw in our drive, a weakness of will. But what if it is something deeper? What if the self-sabotage is not a flaw, but a clash of identities, a fundamental misunderstanding between the person you think you are and the person your shadow self believes it needs to protect? The ultimate spiritual block is not external resistance. It is the enemy in the mirror. The path to sustained success is not found in chasing more light, but in turning and facing the darkness you have locked inside. This confrontation is the most profound act of courage required for breakthrough. Act Y, the shadow's true mission and the fear of wholeness. The concept of the shadow self, famously explored by Carl Jung, is often misunderstood as the repository of evil traits. But the shadow is far more complex. It is the container for all the qualities, desires, and self-perceptions we deemed unacceptable early in life. It holds the exiled power. The shadow's true mission is not to destroy you. It is to keep you safe according to the outdated emotional blueprint established in your childhood. It operates on a simple ancient logic of unworthiness. If I become too visible, too powerful, or too wealthy, I will be abandoned, criticized, rejected. Logic of familiar pain. The pain I know, struggle, lack, chaos, is less terrifying than the pain I cannot predict. Success, stability, true love. Self-sabotage is simply the shadow self pulling the emergency brake on your future. It sees the new identity, the successful, stable, abundant you, as a radical deviation from the familiar, safe identity it was assigned. The sabotage is the unconscious mind desperately trying to restore equilibrium to the identity it recognizes. This explains the paradox of success anxiety. When you are financially stable, the shadow creates debt to restore the familiar chaos of lack. When you are creatively thriving, the shadow induces a crippling block to restore the familiar safety of invisibility. The block is a defense mechanism masquerading as destiny, the anxiety of the empty throne, success guilt. We must also confront a mechanism known as success guilt. This is the subtle but powerful belief that achieving wholeness means betraying the person you were or the people you knew. The ego often builds its identity around a narrative of struggle. I am the one who overcomes hardship, or I am the tireless warrior. When success or abundance removes the hardship, the shadow experiences a profound existential crisis. If I am not struggling, who am I? The shadow fears the empty throne of stability, preferring the identity of the chaotic fighter because it feels more real and more earned. This guilt is magnified by a social contract of suffering. We fear that our success will isolate us from those still struggling, forcing the shadow to initiate a collapse, sabotage, to quickly rejoin the familiar collective narrative of chaos. The intellectual key here is to realize that the shadow is not the problem. The split is the problem. Every act of self-sabotage is a desperate, screaming message from a rejected part of your psyche, demanding not destruction, but integration and a new, comprehensive identity. Act 2. The metaphysics of reconciliation. When we succeed by actively suppressing or ignoring the shadow, the success feels fraudulent. This is the price of the unlived life. The abundant life cannot be built upon a foundation of self-rejection. The spiritual self understands that abundance is not just about having more, it is about having more of yourself. When you push away your messy, emotional, unworthy parts, you close off the channel of your creative and energetic flow. You're essentially telling the universe, I can only receive this much value, because only this perfect part of me is worthy. This is the spiritual blockage, The law of correspondence, as discussed in the Kybalion, states, as within, so without. If your internal reality is fractured, if 40% of your self-worth is locked in the basement of the shadow, then your external reality can only reflect the remaining 60% of abundance. The self-sabotage is a forced return to the level of worth you have internally accepted. Wielding the law of polarity. The deepest blueprint for shadow integration is found in the Hermetic principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its opposite. We fail when we try to eliminate the negative pole, e.g., trying to eliminate anger to achieve peace. The Master understands that anger and peace are two sides of the same spectrum. You cannot possess the power of the positive pole without first understanding the force of its opposite. The shadow is the negative pole, fear, insecurity. Your desired outcome, success, stability, is the positive pole. Integration is not moving from one pole to the other. It is the conscious elevation of the vibration on the same scale. The sabotage energy. The shadow's destructive energy, e.g., reckless spending, sudden anger, is actually a raw, powerful expression of force and intensity. The integrated energy, the integrated self, takes that force and intensity and uses it to establish clear boundaries, intense focus, and protective self-advocacy. By consciously taking the energy from the negative pole, the destructive sabotage impulse, and transmuting its purpose, you create maximum spiritual output. You stop fighting the current of the shadow and start wielding its power for conscious creation. This reconciliation of opposites creates an energetic wholeness that resists the external pressures of chaos. The deepest fear of the shadow is not success itself, but the responsibility of wholeness. To be truly successful and integrated means you can no longer blame your shortcomings on the external world, on your past, or on the system. You are forced into a terrifying, sublime sovereignty. Success forces us to look in the mirror and say, the chaos is over. Now what do I build with all of this freedom? For the shadow, a life without predictable struggle is a life without predictable meaning. Act 3. The advanced integration techniques. Integration is the process of building a relationship with the part of you that has been exiled. It is a dialogue, not a battle. Step 1. The Alchemy of Projection, turning mirror into mastery. This is the practical execution of reclaiming the shadow. The shadow holds the golden shadow, the brilliance you rejected. This appears as intense judgment or intense adoration of others. When a projection occurs, pause. Identify the specific quality: authority, ease, magnetic confidence. Then, immediately reverse the statement. Judgment. That influencer is so arrogant and performative. The right arrow. Reversal. I reject the part of me that is afraid to be confident and visible. Adoration. My mentor is so effortlessly wise. Right arrow reversal. I have refused to acknowledge my own inherent effortless wisdom. The alchemy begins when you perform a symbolic act that incorporates that quality. If you reject loudness, speak your opinion clearly, once, in a safe setting. If you reject wealth, consciously practice an act of financial confidence, like researching an investment, instead of an act of financial anxiety. This breaks the pattern of rejection and begins to incorporate the shadow's energy into your sovereign identity. Step 2. The practice of self-parenting, healing the wound. The shadow's emotional blueprint is rooted in childhood pain. The moment the successful, confident version of you was deemed unsafe, integration must address the original wound. When the sabotage impulse arises, procrastination, urge to quit, you're hearing the voice of the wounded child. Do not engage with it as an adult. Engage with it as the sovereign parent. Shadow's voice. I can't start this project because I might fail, and failing means I am worthless. Sovereign parents reply, I hear your fear, little one. It is safe to fail now. Your worth is not determined by this outcome. I love you regardless of the result, and we will try this difficult thing together. This practice separates your worth from your performance. It gives the fearful shadow the unconditional love it never received, allowing the energy it used to hold that trauma to be released and redirected toward creative success. Step 3. The radical forgiveness of self, closing the loop. The final and most essential act of integration is forgiveness. The shadow grows powerful because you constantly punish it for its mistakes and for the fact that it exists at all. Every act of self-criticism, shame, or should have done better language reinforces the shadow's exile. Radical self-forgiveness is the spiritual practice of realizing that every failure was simply the best decision your limited consciousness could make with the information it had at the time. It requires a quiet, inefficient ritual. Acknowledge, name the past sabotage or failure without judgment. Release, consciously thank the shadow for attempting to protect you, even if its methods were destructive. Forgive, state clearly, I forgive the part of me that did not know how to be whole yet. This forgiveness closes the chaotic loop of self-punishment and allows the energy of the past to become the wisdom of the present. It stops the cycle of the shadow acting out in order to be seen and punished, thus clearing the path for unsabotaged success. Conclusion. The unified flow. The integrated individual does not achieve success despite their darkness. They achieve success because of their wholeness. When the shadow's energy, its raw ambition, its protective force, its intense desires, is brought into the light, it becomes a massive stable engine for conscious creation. You are not eliminating your inner enemy. You are bringing your most powerful ally home. The flow of abundance, love, and spiritual clarity will remain blocked until the flow of self-acceptance is unified. The final act of the sovereign self is not a grand achievement, but the quiet realization that you have permission to be all of who you are. The voice of the shadow whispers, "Danger, hide your success." The voice of the integrated self replies with calm authority, "Thank you for the warning. We are stronger now."